The Super Bowl. The Super Bowl this year was fabulous, especially for someone like me, because I have always been a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs. Always. So to see my team make it all the way to the championship and win in such an exciting game, it was fulfilling. Or, so I thought. As it turns out, it was really nothing but a distraction from responsible, important, real-world issues. I keep hearing that, and you've all heard it before, especially when it comes to professional sports. Bread and circuses. Some dead Roman coined that phrase, and 2,000 years later I have to hear people act smug about the fact that they're too mature to indulge in petty interests like professional sports. Well, I don't buy this bread and circuses shit. The idea that professional sports is damaging because it distracts people from real issues, I will never surrender to that kind of collectivist mentality. And yes, it is collectivist. Anyone who wants to tell you that you shouldn't watch sports, or go to the movies, or read comic books, or whatever else it is, because it keeps you from focusing on important issues, you think about what that's really saying. You should set aside your personal interests so that you may become a better citizen. Set aside your individual passions so that you may better serve the collective. It's really pretty sinister, and it's also bullshit. And I know that because I watch a lot of political and social commentary online. And a lot of the people I watch, they love their sports. A lot of people who are better informed than I am politically are also much bigger football fans than I am. It's almost as though the one has nothing to do with the other. Now I'm going to consider this bread and circuses claim two different ways. One way is that Major League sports in particular is a problem. And yes, a lot of people do make that claim, whether they realize it or not. Because I've heard scathing indictments of professional sports from certain commentators who talk a lot about science fiction. Star Trek and Star Wars, and look what they've done to our precious legacy. Well, they're right about that, but if you want to talk about movies, TV, comic books, or anything else similar, and then tell me that athletics are a problem, then you can just expect me to tune you out. To single out professional sports and ignore other entertainments doesn't even make sense. Now, you might try to convince me that sports in particular is what gets people all worked up. But the problem with that is that I know avid fishermen who are every bit as involved in their hobby. I know people who gather in quilting circles, who just live and breathe that stuff. People are passionate about all the things that they enjoy. And granted, book clubs don't party after a victory the way that sports fans do, but an evening of noise and drink is not what the phrase bread and circuses is about, because it's not about how obnoxious you are. The phrase bread and circuses is concerned with a deep and absorbing interest, a day after day, hour after hour preoccupation. And the quieter pursuits that I've described can be every bit as consuming. You just don't see it in the streets. And then there's the other way to look at it. You see, some people don't single out sports. And even though that makes much more sense, it also becomes a much darker perspective. Because then you have to sacrifice everything. Movies, comic books, novels. People engage in these fantasies to the point of deep analysis. Or how about video games? People spend a lot of time chasing imaginary goals on the screen. Or music. People build collections of music. They become very passionate about what they will and will not listen to. And wouldn't it be better if they turn that passion towards social issues instead? Well, no, it wouldn't be better. What would be the point of the better society that is supposed to be built? A world where no one engages in anything that is not practical? Where every person is just a cog in the machine of society? Well, I don't want that. The social struggle and the politics, that's supposed to serve us. It isn't the other way around. It is true that we have to have a population that is concerned with progress and justice and equality and freedom. But sacrificing our passions will not serve any of those causes. And it wouldn't make sense to try because it becomes a piece of circular logic. You have to sacrifice your quality of life to serve a society that will grant you a better quality of life, that you have to set aside in order to build a better society that will grant you a better quality of life, that you have to set aside to build a better society that will grant you a better quality of life, and on, I guess, until we arrive at utopia? Now to address the counterpoint that I can already hear. Someone is going to say, we don't want people to stop altogether. We just don't want them to be so absorbed that they don't think about anything else. Well, that's not the tone that I pick up. When someone bemoans the bread and circuses of professional sports, I don't hear concern. What I hear is arrogance and quite often disgust. And if that's not you, then recognize this. I'm not telling you that you should not encourage people to be involved in society and its issues. You absolutely should. I certainly do. But don't connect that to professional sports or to any other entertainment. I mean, do you really think that the world's problems will be solved, or even just alleviated, if people watch a little less football? Do you think that if people turn off the big game, that a light bulb will suddenly go off over their heads, and they'll see the truths that you want them to see? Oh, that won't happen. It's not a mathematical equation. If people are not concerned enough with society, turning away from a football game isn't going to help them. It won't make people better citizens. Anyone who is not already socially aware will just find a different distraction anyway.